Thank you, Sev, for having us back again. It's really cool to be here in person. I'm Carmell Marquino.
And I'm Hudson Marquino.
And we are the founders of The Integrity Economy, which is a really cool platform just about living your life with integrity and kind of how you move through the world. But how we got to the integrity economy is we are a mom and son duo. We've owned businesses together. We've done different things together. And we've done mostly life just outside the box. And so the way we're going to break it down today is we're going to tell you a little bit about our story and kind of how we've done life, and then share with you some of the tools that we've gathered. And we're going to do a couple team exercises as well. We're going to get into a little bit of neuroscience, hopefully a little bit of humor. And at the end of this today, in about 7 hours, I'm kidding, you guys should be able to leave with a couple new tools. And we want you to just join in and participate. I was living in Los Angeles. And one of the things that happens there is whenever women are pregnant, you pretty much have to get on a waiting list for schools. It's just a huge deal because schools are so competitive. You guys probably know and have learned or have heard in the US, our public school system is not exactly the greatest. We don't have a whole lot of support for education. And then we have private schools. I was trying to figure out what am I going to do and exactly how am I going to educate this child and give him the best tools possible for his life? So I dove in, I looked at many different kinds of education, and I just stood on the shoulders of giants and learned and learned and learned as much as I possibly could. Before school actually began, there's preschool. So I looked at Maria Montessori method and enrolled Hudson Montessori programs and studied a lot of Rudolf Steiner, the founder of the Waldorf method. And then also Reggio Emilia method was another method of education that I really liked. And what I noticed is I was just extracting different parts of different theories and different disciplines of education that other people had done, but nothing was quite right. But what I knew is that I didn't just want a whole bunch of systems being thrown upon this child because it was his life to live, not everyone else's, and certainly not mine. I didn't want him to just be issued a bunch of recipes for life. I wanted him to create his own path, his own method. And so with all of this education on a box, I looked around and decided none of those boxes are going to work for me. I was like, I'm just going to forget it. So I ended up designing my own education method and went into becoming a mom and becoming a parent with this totally different way of doing things. And I wanted him to become a global citizen. So soon after we tried the preschools, I pretty much knew I was going to homeschool. Now, homeschooling has its own stigma. You know, oftentimes we think that homeschooled kids are just antisocial, little like children living under a desk, like Children of the Corn or some sort of weird horror story. But luckily, we have a lot of different support, and there are a lot of things that we could do in the United States as far as homeschooling goes. So we went to every possible thing. In Los Angeles, we're really fortunate because it's a big city and we could immerse ourselves in many different cultures all the time. I could go to Little Ethiopia for brunch. We had Koreatown where we had lots of friends and we spent a lot of time. And so we really could immerse in another culture. I also wanted to make sure that you were bilingual right off the bat. And while you guys are all tri and quadrilingual, we in the United States don't have to learn another language right away. So we moved to Costa Rica and lived there for a year. And this is where it kind of all came together because not only were we learning another language, or you were learning another language, right, but we were being immersed in another culture. And to be a true global citizen was something that I knew that I wanted for my son. And all the while, through all of the countries that we lived in and all of the things that we've done so very differently, what I wanted him to understand was that the golden thread in all of us is that we're all in this together and we are humanity. And so I'm curious, Hudson, like, how was it for you just to get up and go? Because we've gotten up and we've just like packed and gone. And so when we've gone to other countries and things like that, what's it been like?
Yeah, whenever we explore or adventure to or just travel to live in other countries, frankly, it's always been normal to me. So from my perspective alone, what we've done is just the way my life has gone. It doesn't surprise me when we do something new or fun. We just kind of do it. But from an early age, probably around 8, 9, or 10, I realized from a lot of my peers that the way I was living and the way I was being educated was not normal. It was not the status quo. It was not the standard. And I always kind of enjoyed hearing that because I liked to be different in that way, to be honest. And like you were saying, one of the biggest misconceptions about homeschooling is that these kids are isolated. And while that is true in some specific cases, some different kinds of homeschooling, what we did is not homeschooling verbatim. We actually
Global school.
we global schooled. So it's a new, different type of education. And for me, that isolationist mindset, nothing could be further from the truth for me, because with all of the different countries that we traveled to and we lived in, and the different people and cultures that I was surrounded by, even if I didn't take the opportunities all the time, didn't take advantage of them, I still had the opportunities to meet countless new people and have way more experiences than I would have if I had been in a normal institution with 4 walls and only like leaving the country maybe once a year. So yeah, very grateful. But to answer your question in short, it was normal for me.
So through this, you guys, I want you to understand that this isn't just our story. It's your invitation. We don't want you just to sit here and nod along. Kind of the point of this is we want you to question absolutely everything.
So let's jump in.
Let's dig in.
Let's dig in.
All right, so cross-cultural living. One of the things that we do is we love to suck the marrow out of life. And that's such an awkward, weird phrase. But a friend of ours years ago said, you know what, it's really interesting watching you two, because you really just suck the marrow out of life's experiences. And everywhere you go, I witness you just really digging in to everything that is going on. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit of a gross phrase, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it. And it's really, truly how we travel. You know, going different places, you think, okay, wow, the architecture is beautiful, but have you thought about, you know, the conversations that the man had that actually laid the mortar of this brick, and what he was doing later that evening when he went home, and what his relationship was like with his family, and the kind of pride that he took in laying the mortar in the bricks of this building. And I think about trees, and this is something that another part of just living cross-culturally and going different places, you think about trees. I mean, what have the trees seen? What have these trees endured? You know, have they been through a war? How many people have walked under their shade? More so, have you thought about the leaves on the trees and how they filter the very air that we breathe? And so when we go to other places and when we make new friends in other places, you think about, how deep can you go? Like, what else can we actually explore? To be insatiably curious. In our family, we call it the mortar of the moments. It's really about what's in between. It's about the moments in between the moments and how that impacts your life. And all the while, all of this wonder and just stumbling around, this is actual communication. We don't need to stop at politics and partisanship and what somebody is wearing, or even language for that matter. I mean, have you ever heard of the Melrabian study? It's a study, yes, I'm like, I know you've taught this. So communication, we're looking at, it's 55% body language, right? 38% tone. That one gets me in trouble quite a bit. And only 7% words, right? So the Moravian study, it's well referenced. This, people talk about this all of the time, but the truth of the matter is there is always a way to connect. And in addition, there's these awesome little copycat neurons, and we're going to get into some little splashes of neuroscience throughout the presentation today, but copycat neurons, and they are amazing. They're called mirror neurons. They're these little cells, and what they do is we actually end up with our bodies copy one another. So you guys ever like smile at somebody and kind of force them to smile? And you just keep smiling at them until you force them to smile? I do it all the time because I'm a weirdo, but but you can actually look at somebody and we will start to mirror one another. These are just parts of the ways that we connect. And this is where character begins. It's in the mortar of the moments. So why are you ever going to settle for surface level BS? No matter what, no matter where we were or what kind of day we were having or what kind of label we were clinging to at the moment, character was our baseline, right? It was character over absolutely everything. And it's not about clinging to cozy labels of convenience all the time. It's about who are you choosing to become relentlessly. Self is for you to cultivate, and it's not for somebody to shove you in a box and tell you who you need to be. Now, this isn't some fluffy ideal, right? This is actual work. This takes vigilance. It takes grit. And so we're going to start with a basic framework that we have come up with, and we're going to call it DAR. I'm going to start with the first D, right? D is for discernment, cutting through the distractions, cutting through the BS of life. It's just whenever you get out there, you look up, you talk to strangers. Now, as a parent, it wasn't like all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, discernment's done. I've gotten that part done. Parenting is over on here. No, this is something that has to be just continually worked on. With Hudson, the education that I designed with emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and rooted in a lot of neuroscience. So when I was designing lessons and actions or trips or conversations, anything like this, I would work from the brain health out. And so there is this awesome stuff called myelin. And myelin you can consider is like an insulation of the neuronal sheath. And it actually helps the synapses and it helps our messages of our neurons get to one another. And we live in an ever demyelinating world. Literally all of the stress, all of the alerts, all of the calendars, all of the trauma, all of the environmental toxins and things that we are encountering every day, they actually eat away at that white stuff that's around the neuronal sheath. And so we have to do things that actually improve not just our mental health and physical health, but our brain health. Mm-hmm. And so I would design his education around boosting myelin to start with, because I wanted him to not just learn new things, but I wanted them to stick. The movement is one of the biggest pieces that you can do. Movement, any kind of movement. You can do jumping jacks, you can walk to class, you can do anything. Movement is one of the biggest keys for myelin. So I would have brain hacks or brain bursts in the middle of a lesson, and then he would go outside or flip a headstand or do different things in order to just keep the learning coming all the time.
Dynamic movements especially, so dancing, biking, juggling, something that you have to adapt to and that you have to evolve in at the present moment. Very important for that.
Yeah. And all the while that I was designing his education, oh my gosh, was I learning so much about cultivating my own character, right? So much about my own agency. And it really lit a fire inside me. And so I had to learn to discern through all of this. So D for discernment. But so all the while, how was it like wiring your own brain? Because very soon Hudson was co-designing his education with me, and you were left in charge of so many things. Not left in charge, but I very much wanted you to own your education. So we co-created the education. So I'm really curious, like, what was it like for you to find your own fire and to be responsible for your own brain health? All of this.
There were a lot of stories where that happened, but one of the best ones, and I think one of the ones that we'll use for this example, is when I created a scuba diving internship when we were living in Mexico. So a few years ago, back in 2021, I had already gotten my first certifications in scuba diving, my open water, my beginner open water, while I was in Albania. And then when we moved to Mexico, I wanted to continue scuba diving and continue exploring all of the underwater worlds, something I'm passionate about, something that's very fun. Makes me feel like I'm in a Mission Impossible movie, so I love to do any chance I get. But when I was in Mexico, I decided we were living right along the Belizean Reef south of Cancun, so in eastern Mexico. And we moved to this beach town specifically for a different project we were working on. But I decided that I wanted to go into a scuba shop and basically sell myself to the scuba shop in exchange my time for the certifications. So we were there for about 2 months. And the way I presented myself was I prepared a script fully in Spanish, and I went into a couple different scuba shops. About the third one that I went into, there's this woman standing behind the desk, very sweet. I start speaking to her in Spanish, give her almost my full script, and then it turns out that she's from France. She doesn't speak any Spanish. She just speaks English and French and gets along that way just fine in Mexico. So I end up explaining her the whole story again in English. She's on board with it, and I spend the next 2 months going on over 20 dives. I get my advanced open water certification. I go down to about 100 feet of depth. I do night dives, which are incredibly fun. And then I also get my emergency first response certification because I was also working towards a rescue diver certification at the time. So I thought of something I wanted to do. I had a pre-existing passion in that area. And my mom, obviously, she was like, okay, let's do something about this. We're in a new place now. And was it comfortable to go into new places and ask if I could exchange my time for their even more valuable time and learning? No, it was not comfortable, especially in Spanish. It's not my first language. And I had to really work for it and get out of my comfort zone. But I learned so much, and it's one of my favorite experiences in my life so far. Those 2 months were just brilliant. And yeah, countless memories, great friends. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so that's one example of how I designed my own curricula outside of this is our education system. Yeah. This is part of it. This is just tangential. That's a recurring theme here.
You created your own map. I'm going to add a little something to this. So I'm going to go ahead and just get a little raw with you guys. We were there on a project that I moved us there for that completely fell through.
Serial entrepreneur.
Literally homeless in Mexico. Not kidding. And that was rough. Mm-hmm. And so this is another thing. Think about it. But at this time, how old were you?
15.
So we had to figure out, okay, serial entrepreneur, as he said, and I had to figure out, okay, number one, how do I make sure that my son is healthy? How do I make sure he's safe, right?
Right.
But how does he make the most of this moment? Because our family was like, okay, here we are. I've been a struggling single mom for years. Here I am. I made a bad choice. I made a bad choice of who I went into business with. And it was this that we had to shape something out of.
Yeah.
And I had to give Hudson the tools to shape it himself instead of me going, here, honey, I'm your mommy. Okay, we'll make this okay. It's just not what I could do if I knew that you needed to become the person you wanted to be. And these sorts of things, and it wasn't always that egregious, but these sorts of things happen all the time. And I couldn't always just run to Hudson's rescue if I wanted him to live his own legacy. And so this is one of these examples.
Yeah, one of the examples where we got creative and basically got involved very deeply into the mortar of the moments. We had to pay attention to those moments and basically use those few months as a buffer zone before mainly you got back up on your feet and were ready to do something else. So,
and you came out of it. You had gained not only a couple certifications, but what would you say, like as a young man, as a person, just how did you feel about your communication with the planet, with other people, yourself, like your relationship with yourself after that?
Honestly, I became a lot more grounded with our oceans. No pun intended, I guess. But experiencing, again, going down to like 100 feet deep, seeing all the different marine life, these massive stingrays, these massive manta rays, and the occasional shark here and there too. It was just very humbling for me as a human in the grand ocean, just being able to witness the size of the ocean and the darkness that was in it, but also the light as well, and the coral and all of the life. That was just very humbling for me going into my next stage of life at that point.
Yeah, it was very pivotal for you. And side note, during this time, as I was trying to get back on my feet, this is where we met Sev. Yep. And Sev has a house in Mexico, and she gave us a place to stay while we continued, and we have been friends since. So yes, thank you, Sev. But this is where I think that we've lost sight of the power of our own value, that we can draw our own maps, right? Because what happens sometimes whenever we get out there and we're like, okay, I'm going to start something new. I'm feeling pretty confident. I just met somebody new. Oftentimes we stop. We stop because why? Fear, embarrassment, maybe shame of disappointing others. And we retreat back to something that we have that keeps us so safe right now, like a pacifier. We retreat back to our own algorithms. So these fears make us retreat. And this right here is one of these moments where we can stop and we can discern. We can discern in the moment, because all of these scary moments and these things that could end up just being life flattening, they're actually possibilities. So we can look at these moments like clay, right? So with clay, we can sit here, think of yourself as a vessel. We are this vessel, and we can shape ourselves over and over in life. With clay, you can break the vase, you can add some water, you can remake it again, refire it, throw it against a wall. You can reshape you as the vessel that you are over and over again. So all of these fears and these scary moments, we can look at them as possibilities. Possibilities to discern and move forward. That is an image of a vase. And that's an image of me. That's my vase. Because we just have to make it wonky. We just have to keep adding and reshaping, and it just doesn't matter, right? Your vase can be, your vessel can be whatever you want it to be, because it's all the unfolding of you.
I would also add that you are in a constant state of reshaping, of remolding, of rekindling. It's never a finished project.
Yeah.
You are continuously learning. If you're not, that's a choice as well. You just stay in your lane, and you can do that as well. But especially with you, that may be how it looks like now, but it's moving, it's shaping. It doesn't stay like that.
It's okay. I'm okay with my boss.
It's abstract art.
But the thing is the moment that you recognize your stuckness, the moment that you actually discern and pause in this moment, this means that this is character cultivating. This means that you are moving forth into this piece, into this thing that's you. Ah, yes, labels, right? With the lovely layers of labels. We all have our dogmas, don't we? Our religions, our diagnoses, all of the different labels that we call ourselves. Labels are really comfortable. What are some labels? Let's okay. Labels. What do we call ourselves? We have all these. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I said single mom earlier. That's another one. Labels. You guys have labels?
Students, yeah.
Yeah.
Any more emotional ones?
Drama queen.
There you go. Drama queen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, what about our religions? What about our roles? What about our colors? All of the different things that we call ourselves. But when we think about it, again, character is our baseline. Character, before everything, character trumps culture, character trumps color. When we're developing this character, again, this is like something you guys were talking about earlier, and when you were talking about values-based conversations and values-based thinking. It's that root, it's that character. What are those foundational values that really make you who you are? Because it's not whether you're an overthinker or, you've got labels and all of this. It's deeper. It's much, much deeper than that. But I want you to think about something, and we'll switch gears here a little bit. When we have labels, and we always classify things as labels, it's actually not just us being a bunch of jerks going, okay, well, I'm gonna call this person that and judge this person that because I want to. Our brain actually really, really, really loves labels. It loves to categorize. So we have this lovely, lovely thing. We like the quick comfort of certainty over the messy work that it takes whenever we really want to dig in. The brain loves efficiency. So you have your ROS, which is your reticular activating system, and your ROS is going to recognize something, and it's going to go say, oh, hey, I know what to do with this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this go somewhere. Nice little quick and dirty thing. And then we have the default mode network, the DMN of our brain. It's a little neural net, and it says, okay, I know what this is. I'm going to cling to this label, and I'm going to be the sorting hat, and I'm going to go ahead and put it somewhere. So our DMN we can think about is our sorting hat. And so it moves it, and it shapes it and puts it in a label. This makes us comfortable because our brain really likes to be radically efficient, and we like to be safe. Our brain wants us to be safe. So anytime we step out of that, if we feel like, oh, it's always, I'm lazy, I suck, I'm not doing anything, why aren't I doing something different? it's your brain sitting there trying to keep you safe all of the time. So again, back to this point of stuckness, just recognizing you're stuck moves you through. And so how do you become who you are if you're hiding behind all your labels all the time? You adapt, right? You adapt in the moment. And so that's going to be the second part of our acronym. We've got D for discern, A for adapt in the moment. And so H, I'm curious, do you have any moments whenever you've had to adapt, or maybe you've been judged by certain labels, or maybe you've done the judging or anything like that?
I think another label that we assign importance to is definitely age. So age for me, when I transferred into university last semester, and when I was first getting started, I really wanted to join one of the venture capital clubs on campus because I'm an aspiring VC. So I went in, and as I was pitching myself and meeting new people, and basically just getting prepared for the internships that were to come, I did pick up on some judgments surrounding my age. Like, why was I in this club at this age? And I could tell that before them seeing what my work and what my internships actually produced in the end, I did feel a little underestimated because of my age, because of what they assigned a typical 18 or 19-year-old to act like or to become. And judgment is something I personally try and keep pretty low, although it does happen, obviously, for all of us. But yeah, that's one time that I definitely did feel judged at first. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you just adapted, and you kind of...
I adapted, yeah.
Kept moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
when we adapt in the moment, we are growing, as uncomfortable as it may be. And we're hooked on comfort. And comfort is a trap. It is an absolute trap. But again, the brain really likes us to stay comfortable. The brain says, okay, everything is scary. Don't go out there. But when we coast, our ACC is snoozing. So our ACC is our anterior cingulate cortex. It's this green part right here. And it's kind of, if you were to put your hand up here, it's where the bridge that bridges the two halves of your brain kind of sits right under that, in that area. And you can think of your ACC, let's go ahead and rename it, always crush comfort. Because your ACC is really, it loves challenges and it loves a little bit of friction. And this is where your gray matter starts to plump. And so if we're snoozing, we're not getting challenged. And if we're not getting challenged, we're not getting friction. And if we're not getting friction, then we're not plumping the gray matter in our brain. And comfort makes us not have plump gray matter, right? So if you're not getting out there and doing anything new and taking in new information, your brain rots. The end. Okay, we're done here. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, you've got to understand that all of these different things have an effect on your brain health as well. And more than ever, you have to champion and you have to take control of your brain health. We have mental health, we have diversity and inclusion, we have physical health. Everybody's telling us we need to work out, we need to do all of these different things, but we really kind of skip over the brain part. And our brains are being assaulted right now. And you can do it with just minor things, like the movement, like talking to one another, doing new things differently, looking up. So ACC, always crush comfort. So we want to think about that. And the randomness of every day that you might come across. You might trip on a curb, or you might take a new way home, or you might meet somebody completely new. All of these random moments, those are new information. So you can't underestimate your ability to transform and your ability to cultivate character, because all of these random moments are you unfolding in the moment that you will miss if you are looking down at your phone all the time. Yeah? You miss that. And everywhere you look too, there's alerts and badges and fear-based programming and all of these things out there trying to keep us just looking down, and we don't realize that we're just kind of ignoring the world around us. And when I think about the different things that all of this fear-based programming, we're trained to question our own courage from birth. And what I mean by that is there are two phrases that parents, as well-meaning as we may be, there are two phrases that we say that really, really mess up our kids. And that's watch out and be careful. Watch out for this, be careful for that. Watch out for this, be careful for that. And it's such a knee-jerk reaction, it's unconscious. And we're always, always saying it. And now we say it to our friends, we say it to one another. Watch out, be careful. As babies, from a physiological point of view, we're actually robbing them of their own innate ability to detect real risk whenever there's really something that they should be looking out for. And so you layer that with the fact that we're looking at our phones all of the time and we're really kind of dulled out to the world around us. And so I ask you, what is comfort costing you? You think about how you have comfort in your daily life and what is comfort costing you. And this is where we come to the third R. So we've got discern, we've got adapt, and now we have our first R, which is going to be reflect. So reflecting in the moment and going, okay, how can I do this differently? What kind of new information can I take in? And again, here, this is just a cool thing that Hudson found.
So this is all of the Americans versus the European. No, I'm kidding. This is all of the monolinguals on the right-hand side. This was a study done a couple of years ago where there were brain scans taken of monolingual people speaking English only and then bilingual people speaking both Spanish and English. And what you can see here is that there is all the red areas here that highlights the increase in gray matter. So there is actively more gray matter on the left-hand side, which shows that they are encountering friction. They are having difficulties, but they're solving them at the same time. There are neurons that myelin is getting produced as they're solving those problems.
Yeah, so it's awesome because the gray matter, we like gray matter. We like wrinkly brains. And you can think about it with language learning, right? So have you guys all learned a new language recently, like since we've had apps? Is that you guys use Duolingo? Okay, right. So let's just take Duolingo. Duolingo's great. It's an awesome app. You get all your little lollipops and your badges and your stars, and you've got your levels and all those little dopamine hits that you keep getting. It's awesome. You learn a little. Maybe you learn a little more than a little. But when you go somewhere, say you go into a restaurant where nobody speaks whatever your native language is, and you go in there and you're actually trying to speak their language, and you throw yourself into a social situation and you fumble and you mess up your syllables and you say words wrong. I do this all the time. But where are you growing? With which one are you actually growing? That's the one you're getting gray matter with, is the one where you're out there in person and you're interacting with others. Because you're actually going to learn more than you are, more than likely, sitting here doing your Duolingo app. And another example of this is we've got post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Everybody knows PTSD, right? It's a real thing. It's a real diagnosis. It is a label I feel like sometimes we hide behind, right? And we have all of these things that treat the trauma and the stress. But how often do we talk about PTG? You guys know what that is? It's post-traumatic growth. It's how do you rise out of something? It's how you take a really shitty moment in life and you sit there and you go, oh my God, I did it. I did it. I made it through the other side. And this is who I am. And this is who I've become. The post-traumatic growth. We don't talk about this enough because we are all so heroic. And it doesn't actually have to be like a mega trauma. You can sit there and celebrate, oh my gosh, I just got through a tough conversation with my best friend. That's growth. This is cultivating character. Again, character, the root of that onion. All the labels and everything else that we can hide behind if we want to.
Yep.
We don't have to. We can just continue to cultivate that character, that piece. So I ask you, what's your space for becoming? And so with this R, this reflect that we're talking about, we're just going to do a little team exercise here. And we're going to talk about what things do we know as our identity. And you guys were actually talking about this earlier. And then what things are character. And you just want to reflect on this a little bit. So we've started with a few here.
Yeah, so we have struggling student. checking census boxes, familial expectations, just things that you do, actions that you take in life that you also use to define yourself and your own identity. Even if they aren't directly associated, you can still bring those things in and identify those actions with yourself. We have some shame of disappointing others. I know I'm guilty of that at times. And then politics. Are you into them? Are you not? Do they define your identity if you sway one way or the other? Usually they do. Sometimes they may not.
People may think that, oh, that person's a bad person because they believe in X candidate, or this person's a good person because they believe in X candidate. It's just another label, right? This is just identity. These are roles. What are some other identities and roles that we take on? Let's add to our list. Let's have an identity.
I hear whispers.
Role. Sister, brother. Yes, please. Daughter. Yes, daughter. Yeah. Some responsibility and obligation that comes with being daughters and sons, isn't there? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But whether we're single or in a relationship doesn't define who we are, really. But we go around like it does a lot of the time, right? Did you have something, Seb? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. So now let's reflect on character. What are things that you have? And often we're not celebrating. We're not celebrating things that we talk about with our character. Did you get through something tough? Were you resilient in the moment? You know? Have you adapted in a situation? That is another thing. Have you been open? Are you open to new belief systems? Are you open to experiencing new things?
A good way to think about this as well is that identity, you can define it as actions that you take in life that you apply to your own identity, you apply to your own mindset, your own way of thinking. And character is things that you display yourself as while you take those actions. So it's kind of retroactive to identity if you define it like that.
Got it. Foundational there. Hope. Interconnectedness, another thing. Another character trait is that desire, that, again, where we can realize that we have more in common than we don't. All of these things cultivate character. And we've been doing this, and we've talked to people before, and they're like, you guys might think it, or other people have thought it, oh yeah, well, I didn't have a weird, crazy mom like you, so I don't get those opportunities, or my culture doesn't promote, being open to certain things and all of this. But I have to say, you're all old enough. You can see all of this with your own eyes. And it's time that you take responsibility for your place in this world, because we need you. We need the real you right now. The last R, reshape. So we've got discern, adapt, reflect, and reshape. So the ability to kind of, like the vase, reshape it, reflect upon things, reshape it again, decide what I want to do. I woke up to my duty as a mom. I decided to dive in, to just go all in and parent wholly. I reparented myself. I learned to do so many different things. I just really wanted to go, okay, how can I go further? I just turned 50 and I'm learning a new language and I've got new horizons, and I'm looking back on the things that I've done in life that have worked. I'm looking back on the things that I've done that have sucked, and I'm trying to continue and keep moving forward. And like Sev said earlier too, she just learned something not that long ago. Oh, and she turned 52. Happy birthday to us. What if you guys didn't have to wait until you were 50 and actually had the tools to start doing this earlier? Because nobody had classes or programs like this when I was going to school. And I think, what if you can peel back the veils. You can do things differently than you are supposedly expected to from your family, from your religions, from your different things. And might I add, you also don't need to eat pre-chewed digital slop all day long with your algorithms, right? Fuck your algorithm. You are so much more powerful than your algorithm. Your algorithms keep you in their little echo chamber and they say, oh, you like this? We're going to give you more. We're going to give you more, give you more. But when are they inviting you out? When are you getting to learn more than just what your algorithm is feeding you? So stay curious and talk to strangers and try new things. You are human potential. Notice I didn't say you have human potential, right? You are human potential. Because when we say we have something, our reptile brain likes to think like, oh, okay, that means it's outside me. It's detachable. That means it can be taken away. No. I am human potential. Say it with me. I am human potential. Yeah. And you can think of it with physics as well, right? If you want to think about it from a physics point of view, is potential is just energy waiting to act. Yeah.
Yeah. Slide.
So you can discern, you've adapted, you have reflected, and you can now reshape, rebuild, and keep going. Toolbox. Have you noticed that cultivating character takes a little bit of courage, right? It does. It takes courage to get out of our algorithms. It takes effort. It takes courage to have hard conversations, to get out of our comfort zones. It really, really does. But we want to give you some tools as well, because it doesn't need to be just, like I said, some fluffy ideal and some affirmation and all of a sudden it's done. It just doesn't work that way. But you can actually have, you can use some tools to do different things. And one thing, we alluded to it a few things. We have this lovely little magic box that all of us talk to and our lives are in, and that's our phone. Our phone keeps us from participating in the world around us a lot. Now, I love them. The technology is amazing. There's a lot of the world that we can access with our phones. So we definitely don't need to discount the good of them, right? Or put them in the label of good or bad, because we're trying to get away from that. But some simple tools. Would you dry erase here? Would you write these up there?
Absolutely.
Some simple tools that you can use to actually cultivate character in the moment. And what I mean by that is I'm going to give you a tool, and because you use this tool, then you're actually going to be able to cultivate character, because you will be participating in the world around you a little bit more. Have you guys ever turned your phones to monochrome? Yeah, you know about that? Yeah. So you can turn your phone to monochrome, and it just doesn't attract your brain as much. Little tiny things like this, and I'm not saying you have to do these things or that you have to do them all the time or at all, but they do work. Keeping your phone out of sight whenever you don't need it and you're not actually on it, this works. Having sacred spaces where your phone is not invited. I have a little like altar area where I have a picture of my sweet kitty who passed away. I have little things. I have an entire room area where my phone is not allowed. A lot of things. Have you guys ever done your pickup count? You know, your phone counts how many times you pick it up a day. Get ready to get sober, because
that's crazy.
It is so shocking. Because you can, we can show you afterwards or whatever, but you can go into settings and there's a place where you can count the pickups on your phone. And when you realize how many times you unconsciously pick up your phone a day, it is like, oh gosh, what am I doing? You know, and just knowing that goes, oh, okay, I'm not a bad person for doing that. But maybe I could work toward picking it up a little bit less, or just picking it up whenever I want to talk to, you know, Sonia or whatever, you know. Another thing, you could take a whole day a week off of your phone. I know it might sound really crazy in 1909, but you can take a whole day off. You can take hours off. And another thing that we did, I obviously don't do it anymore, but Hudson, I don't know, do you still schedule social media time?
Nope.
As it was a class or as it was something else, because it's super important to have social media because it's freaking cool. At the same time, you didn't just have it all the time.
Yeah, from an early age too. Again, I didn't think, and she didn't raise me anti-tech or anti-social media. That's definitely not what this is. This is just being able to moderate this kind of technology so that you don't let it overwhelm you, so that you don't let all the information mankind has ever learned and found and put into an algorithm overwhelm you and define your life more than it should, healthily.
Some other things that you can do is you can own your dopamine. You can be responsible for your own dopamine. And another one that seems counterintuitive is schedule boredom time, where you don't have anything around you, where you just sit there and you be bored and you let your mind wander. Again, because in these moments, you think with you. right? You might think of the most bizarre things on the planet that you wouldn't have had room to think about if you were busy doing something. So just scheduling boredom time. Other ways to own your own dopamine: learn something new. New dance, new language, new something. Take on a new ability. I don't mean coming to classes. I don't mean that at all. I mean just something fun that you have never done before. So this is another way to own your dopamine. Daily eye contact. Making eye contact with somebody. And the cool thing about this, you guys, all these things that I'm listing, like the eye contact or new dance, if you do something for 21 days consecutively, 21 days, your brain is going to recognize that as a new habit. And if you go for 30 days, then we can turn that into a motor pattern. Now keep that as a loose framework, because 21 days of doing something, your brain's going to go, oh yeah, cool, I expect this. Thank you. And then it won't be so hard anymore or so uncomfortable. But of course, then you need to create more friction and get uncomfortable and get more gray matter, like finding something else to do again. Gratitude. Another way to own your dopamine is by practicing acts of gratitude. And yes, sounds fluffy and it sounds like another affirmation, but here's one thing that we do. And I want to share this with you guys and invite you all to do it. Everywhere we go, if we're at a theme park or an airport or somewhere where there is somebody cleaning the bathrooms, this is just a simple thing. We always make a point, if they're in there, to go up to them and thank them and look them in the eyes and to thank them on behalf of all of us, meaning all the people that go in and out of that bathroom a day. Mm-hmm. Everyone. Thank you. In their language, by the way, usually. You try and thank them in their language if they happen to be from someplace else. Thank you. We appreciate you keeping the bathroom clean for us. Can you imagine the resonant effect of that? Like how you change that person's day? Because that's a fun thing too. If you want to think about selfishly, you can go, I just kind of did myself a favor. I just owned my dopamine in that moment. But think about what it does for the bus driver. These are the things that cultivate character. These are the things that are going to carry you through all of the labels and all of the disappointments. But there's one thing that's for sure, is that courage isn't optional. It is the fuel for all of this. Yep. All of this. Will you get us another, we're going to do another team exercise. You guys want to draw a line?
Erase this.
Rot and grow. Yeah, you can erase that one. Put rot on one side and grow on the other. Okay, we're going to talk about your brain rotting and your brain growing. And we're going to talk about living our potential. We're going to take some inventory. So you guys go and take just 30, 45 seconds and write down a couple things that you do that make your brain rot.
Thank you.
I doom scroll. I judge. I don't play with my cat as often as I used to. These are here for some examples. And you don't have to share these, by the way. But just write them down. Things that you do aren't so great for your brain. All right, now we're going to talk about things that you do, because you've got to recognize the things that you do that make you grow, that cultivate character. What are some things that make you grow as a human? You don't have to share them. I say I appreciate you. I even have t-shirts made that say I appreciate you, because I think it's really important to see people and say, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here today, by the way. You're in the front row. Sorry, I'm singling you out. But no, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Looking people in the eyes, talking to strangers. Recognize the things that you do, the actions that you take that help you grow as a human being. You've got to honor yourself. Honoring yourself, self-love, in all of the ways is really, really good for your brain and mental health. So wield it. Wield your volition. Character trumps everything.
It sure does. But one thing to keep in mind throughout this conversation right now is that all of these things we've brought to you today, and that you may have already known, these are all choices you can make. These aren't mandates that you have to do to live a successful life. These are choices that you can choose to do or choose not to do. It's completely up to you. It's subjective in that sense. But if you want your life to be a story worth telling with twists and turns and basically have a more exciting plot going on, a simple way to put it, you need to take risks. You need to investigate different kinds of opportunities. You need to jump into new things. You don't have to look strangers in the eyes. You don't have to introduce yourself to new people. You don't have to learn a new language or do some crazy new thing or jump off a hot air balloon. But what if you do?
Be the person.
You can be the person who does that, and you can further develop your own story as you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So look up. There is a glorious world, and you're a part of it. And you guys all have a pulse on how it turns out. Like, what you do in a day matters for how this world turns out.
You want to act like the person that you want to become in the future.
Yeah. So choose character over convenience in every possible way that you can, and give it to yourself, give character to others, give it to this gorgeous, messy world that we live in, and wield it. Do it. This is a quote, sort of, that a lot of people have said this different ways, but we kind of came up with our own version of it. But the purest form of generosity that we can give is our attention. So, thank you, everybody.
Good job.